Today I want to talk to you about part 2 of project management and accounting. So in my prior video about project management and accounting, we actually went through and talked about what is a project, and at the core, what is project management and accounting. And again, that's really at the core is a project management and accounting is a place to gather costs and revenue, so that way you can have everything nice and neatly put together in one place. So on our prior video, again, we created a project contract, we created a project, and we put a budget on it. So today we're going to use that same project, and we're going to do a timesheet and an expense, and depending on how much time we have, we'll go into maybe hours journals, expense journals, and fee journals. And then on another episode or another part of this, I'm going to show you how to use projects on purchase orders, sales orders, and then we'll invoice. So I don't really know how many parts this particular series will be. It kind of depends on how long each of the videos are, because I like to keep them short. So to start with, we're going to do a timesheet. And to do a timesheet, before I do that, and as I go through each piece, I want you to understand some of the setup behind it, because it can be quite frustrating to see someone else do it and it works beautifully, but you don't understand what they did in the background. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at my worker record. So to do that, we're going to go under human resources and then workers, and in my case I'm going to go into employees. But the difference between contractors and employees and workers are, this list consists of both employees and contractors, and then if you go to employees, it's just employees, and contractors are just contractors. So I'm set up as an employee, and I'm going to find my name. All right, so here I am. Now on the worker record, you'll notice at the top, at the tippy top, there is a spot for project. And on here, there's project setup. In order to do a timesheet, you have to have the timesheet information populated. So what this is allowing the system to do is to know what calendar to associate your worker with, like how many hours are in a day, what the holidays are, those different things. And over here is the maximum working time. And this is what, I put in that I'm going to work 8 hours a day. So just know that this is here. You can tinker with this a bit as you're doing your own projects, or if you're taking a look at that, because there's also some validations in here about enabling project validations and category validations and stuff. So just know that this is here, and it is on the worker record, and you don't have to do it worker by worker. Whenever you're doing it on a normal project, you'll actually set up the calendar, and when you set up the calendar, you can tell it to populate those fields on the worker records. So, but in this example, I just set up my own, and now I'm going to go back into project management and accounting. And then under timesheets, I'm going to go into my timesheets. Now, if you were to go into all timesheets, and if I were to click new here, I'm going to get an error message. Oh, maybe I won't. Let's see. Oh, it's not. Okay, so I can go in here. If you don't have your calendar set up, you'll get an error message when you come in here, or you'll get, if you don't have a delegate. So if you're not set up as a delegate, so meaning you can do the timesheet for someone else. So you can go in this way. I'm going to delete this one just to show you the other way. And then the other way of going in is to go into my timesheets. So the difference between my timesheets and all timesheets is my timesheets are just mine, and then all timesheets would be everybody's. Again, I'm a sysadmin, so that's why I can see everyone's, but if you weren't a sysadmin, you wouldn't be able to necessarily see everyone's timesheets. It depends on your permissions. So I'm going to go in here and click new. Again, it knew who I was because my user, my D365 user, is tied to my worker record, and my worker record has a project calendar on it. So that's what this is for. I'm going to say okay. I'm going to say add new line. You have customer here, and you have project ID. If you want to put in the customer, then when you look at the project, it'll just show you projects for that customer, or you can go directly over here and put in the project ID. So I'm going to look at my project. So here's my project here. And if you're doing activities and stuff, you can put that in. I didn't set up activities in my project. And then I can just go across and put in how many hours, I worked. All right. And then when I'm done, I can just save it and then submit to workflow. Now, in this particular case, I have my workflow set up to auto approve because I don't want to wait for it to actually go through. So when I submit this in a minute, we're going to see it pop in onto our project. But what I did want to point out, and I wanted to take a look at this. So we'll see it's hourly data analytics. That's set up on my worker records as a default. So but I could pick something else if I wanted. You can see it's looking at the categories with the transaction type of hour. And if I have an hourly rate associated with this particular category, then it'll take my time times my hourly rate and post that back to the project. So let's take a look to see if this particular category has a rate or if my user has a rate, because I don't think I do, but let me show you how. So I'm going to duplicate the tab, and I'm going to go into Project Management and Accounting, and then under Setup, and then let's see here, so put Setup and then Prices and then Cost per hour right here. Okay, so you can see the category is not set up and my worker is not set up. So if I want, I could click New here. We can say it's effective as of, I don't remember what date range I was using for my timesheet. We'll just say that. And we can put this category in here. And we can say that the rate is $25 an hour. Okay. And now if I go back over here to my timesheet, then when I post this should post that on there. I don't think I have to re-add this line. I believe it's fine that I've added it and then did the money piece of it. And also you can have financial dimensions. The financial dimensions come from my worker record. So if you have those on there, you can certainly do that. So now I'm going to submit to workflow. And then we're going to go on ahead and do an expense for our expense report. And then that way we can see that while this is processing in the background. To do an expense report, you go under Expense Management, and then you go into Expense Reports, and then we can say New Expense Report, and then this purpose, you don't necessarily have to put this in, you can leave it empty if you want, but sometimes it's helpful. It kind of depends on what you're trying to do. Again, these are your financial dimensions if you want to populate those. And I'm going to say okay. And then I'm going to give it, and again, this is the date, so that'd be the date on your receipt. If we do like car rental, and if I want, I could set these up if I want like Hertz or rent a car or whatever. And we can just say it's $100. This is where I'm going to tie it to my project. So again, I'm going to search for my project. And what we're going to notice is, let's see, there should be a field on here for billable. Maybe it's not being displayed. Let's take a look at this category really quick and see. So this is an expense. Choose on project. So I think this is billable. Where's my billable flag? I'll take a look at that later. And I can, at some point I may talk to you about categories because it's kind of an interesting setup. So here's the default line property. So I'm going to mark this as billable. That's what I was looking for. And I'm actually going to remove this line and re-add it. And there's a mobile app for expenses. I think they're going to deprecate the one that's there and put out a new one. I'm not real sure. I haven't used the app in a while. So just kind of know that I think Microsoft is doing something with that, but I'm not entirely sure. But you can obviously do it here in the application. All right, there we go. So it's billable. All right, so that's good. And then you can set up rules about if it has to have receipts, and there's lots of rules and stuff you can set up in the background. And again, I'm going to submit this, and it should go through and auto approve as well. Again, that's really a short way of doing that. So I think based on our time, we're probably just going to get through timesheets and expenses here. So let's go take a look at our project and see if we have some transactions. So let's see. So project management, accounting, all projects. And again, we're going to look for our project. So here she sits. So I have two projects. Okay, so this one's in process, so it's probably this one. So under manage at the top, under related information, we can see pending transactions and posted transactions. So pending transactions would be transactions that I've created that have not yet posted. So again, this is a pending transaction, so my expense report has not yet posted. So we know we can see that by going there. If we go to posted transactions, we can see here's my hours, and see now you can see the amount. So it took it's rate times time. So it took my hourly rate of $25 an hour times my hours, and it came across. Something else you'll notice is this, because it was billable, this inventory status is chargeable. So that tells us that we can actually bill the client for this stuff, for these hours. And again, you see it's that type of hour and all of that. So that came across beautifully, and I don't think my workflow for my expense report is still churning in the background, I think, going through that. But once that posts, then that'll show up as a posted transaction as well, and it should come across as chargeable, so that in a few more episodes or series of this, we'll get to the point of invoicing and we'll be able to invoice these hours. So again, today we went through timesheets and expenses, and there will be a future session for this to do the other pieces. So stay tuned.